The liberal press and the far left had been building a narrative for months that the president wasn't physically and mentally fit to be president, right? Which was ridiculous. I walked in, medical correspondents, they're not normally in the press briefing room, but it was pretty obvious they were there, kind of punch holes in my presentation of the president's physical, and it didn't really go that way. And the press just kept asking more and more questions, and eventually they literally ran out of stuff to ask, and they just started asking incredibly foolish questions.
Can you assess the president's mental fitness for office?
Is there anything you're keeping from us for privacy reasons?
Can you explain to me how a guy who eats McDonald's and fried chicks and all those Diet Cokes and who never exercises is in as good a shape as you say he's in? It's called genetics.
Needless to say, the good thing that came from that, it removed all of the narrative that was out there about the president being physically and mentally unfit to be president. It just went away. So I come from a pretty blue-collar background. My dad's an electrician, my mom's a homemaker, and I actually worked as a roustabout in the oil field my entire time in college, and that's what paid for my entire education was oil and gas. So I went to Texas A&M at Galveston. I was a marine biology major. I was lucky enough to be the resident advisor that checked Jane, my wife, into her room the day that she showed up, and that's where our relationship started. And I knew pretty quickly that I wanted to be an ER doc, but I had one big problem: how to pay for it. So I reached out to the recruiters. They have this health profession scholarship program. They paid for 4 years of my med school, and I owed them 4 years payback. So it was year for year. Great deal. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get in, I'm gonna do my 4 years payback and then get out. I'll go out and move back home in the Panhandle and work as an emergency medicine doc and make a lot of money, I guess, is what I was thinking, right? But that's not what happened. I got in and I just got addicted to my service in the military. Being in Iraq and getting offered the job at the White House. One day I logged on, checked that email, there's an email in there, and it said, "You've been selected as one of 3 people to interview for a job at the White House. Please be in Washington, D.C. in 5 days." I was like, whoa. I was pretty excited that I'd made it that far, but I thought to myself, this is where the road stops. There's no way I'm gonna be in D.C. in 5 days. So I had been talking to my commanding officer about it. He was tracking what was going on. The phone up, he called the air boss, the guy that controls all the air assets for the Marines in that, Al-Anbar province. The thing he said was, "I want his butt out of here by sunset," and he hung the phone up. I went out to the flight line, got on a helicopter, flew to Baghdad, got on a C-5 cargo plane, flew back to Cherry Point, North Carolina. Got to Cherry Point, North Carolina, got a rental car. I drove to DC. I interviewed for the job at the White House for 3 days, 3 full days of interview. At the end of the 3rd day, they told me I got the job. I got back on a plane, went back to Iraq, spent the next back to Iraq for 4 more months, finished my tour in Iraq, and then came straight from Iraq to the White House, and that was in the very beginning of 2006, and I was the brand new junior physician for George W. Bush. I would tell the president that we signed up to defend this country, and I would gladly put the uniform back on and be on the front lines again. I would go right back to that shock trauma platoon on the battlefield. We took direct fire and they shot rockets and mortars at us routinely. I would put myself in harm's way if that's what was needed without any hesitation whatsoever. I told you my son, my daughter-in-law, they're both active duty. They would put themselves in harm's way immediately, and they would gladly do that for our country. But I would tell the president that I would want to make sure that we're doing it for the right reasons, that we're out there defending our country and defending the interest of our country. And so as a member of Congress, I'm going to be adamant about looking at why are we getting ourselves into conflicts, and if we do get ourselves into conflict, are we prepared to win? And I don't want to go into conflicts unless we're postured and prepared and equipped to win. If we're going to fight to win.